Hi, I'm Glenn Rogers, and this is American Perspectives. You know, the last couple of months, for conservatives at least, have been kind of strange. It's not what we expected. Things didn't go the way we had hoped, the way we anticipated, and a lot of people are feeling kind of unsettled, a little confused, maybe a little bit angry. And so this is the debut program of our channel, and I can't think of anything better to begin with than to talk about the next 4 years. What now? What do we do? I think the very first thing that we need to consider is that we can't give up. We can't get frustrated and toss up our hands and say, well, I'm done. I'm just going to walk away from this. I can't take this anymore. I think that would be the wrong thing to do for several reasons, which I'll get to that in a minute. But we can't give up. We can't wait doing nothing for the next 3.5 years and then think, okay, well, you know, we're going to have to vote in a few months, so what can we do to make sure our person gets elected? We have to be busy for the next 3.5 years. We have to be active. We have to be involved. And we can't let what's happened become a distraction. You know, this is not the first time we've had a Democratic administration. We've had Democratic presidents before, and we've had some liberal left-wing Democrat administrations before. We survived 8 years of Obama. Many people think that the next 4 years is going to be a third Obama term. That's pretty much what it's going to be. We certainly have all of those people in place. And so is this something that we can get through? Yes, I think we can. We can survive this just like we survive anything else. So this isn't the end of the world. And we have to remember that in nearly every administration that comes along, they find ways to undo a good deal of what the previous administration had accomplished. And when this administration takes over, the first 100 days, President-elect Biden has already said that there's a number of things he's going to undo, that he's going to change things. Okay, well, what we have to remember is that what he does in the next 4 years, when the person who follows him comes along, and hopefully, if we do our job, that will be a conservative Republican, that administration will be able to undo some of the things that have been done during these 4 years. I think the Founding Fathers were very wise in the way they set things up. Have you ever wondered why the president only serves for 4 years? It may have been that they understood that there's not an awful lot of damage that can be done in 4 years that can't be undone. I don't know. It would be interesting if we could go back and ask them, wouldn't it? But we can't. But maybe that's part of it. And we can take comfort in the fact that some of the things that Biden does, we may feel uncomfortable with that. But when another Republican president is in office, and we hope that happens next time around, then some of those things can be undone. So there's nothing here that we need to panic about. We absolutely don't want to panic. In fact, what we want to do is find ways to be involved. And I want to take a couple minutes to talk about some of the things that you could do over the next 3.5 years. And I think the simplest thing you can do, and at the same time, one of the most effective things that you can do, is that you write your state and federal representatives and senators and tell them what you think. The letters that they get, emails mostly today, help them understand what their constituents think and feel and what they want. And, for every person who will take the time to write an email, they know that there might be 20 or 30 or 50 other people or even 100 other people who feel exactly the same thing, believe exactly the same thing, want exactly the same thing, but they didn't take time to sit down and write an email. And so when one person writes an email and tells their elected official, both state and federal, what they think and what they're interested in, that can have a huge impact. Think about thousands of people writing their elected officials at both levels, the state and the federal, and them getting all of that. What are they going to think? They're going to think, let's say they get 1,000 letters. They're going to think that this is not just what 1,000 people think and want. This is what 50 or 100,000 people think and want. Well, that's going to have an impact. That's going to motivate them. That's going to get them busy, because that many people happy with them can get them reelected, or that many people unhappy with them can get them not reelected. Okay? So a simple thing like sitting down and composing an email to your elected representatives can have a huge impact. And all you have to do is know their name, and you can look their name up online, and they'll have a website, and on every single one, there's a button to click to send them an email, and you just sit down and write an email. Tell them what you think, what you want. Express your beliefs and your opinions. That's a very important thing for you to do. What kinds of things might you want to write them about? Gee, there's all kinds of stuff, isn't there? I can think one of the things that I think we would want to write them about is election reform. The fraud that many of us believe happened during this particular election. Now, I don't think we're going to be able to stop voting by mail. Once a thing gets put into action, once it gets adopted and it's there, once it gets done, it's almost impossible to get it undone. I think we're probably not going to get rid of voting by mail. That's just my thoughts, and you may disagree. But, even if we can't get rid of it, one of the things we need to do is make sure that if we're going to do it, we do it right, so that the voting that gets done by mail is legal voting. It represents people who are alive, people who are old enough to vote, people who are mentally competent, people who live in the state where they're voting in. Okay, and we need some things in place to make sure that we get good legal voting by mail, rather than the highly questionable things that occurred this time. So that's something you could write your representative about. Another is the limits of emergency powers. Now, I've got another video specifically about that, the limits of emergency powers, that I'm going to talk about. But right now, I think we could at least say most of us have the feeling that an awful lot of governors in the country have gone too far, and that things aren't going well for a lot of people because their economies are shut down. People can't work. People can't, do the things that they need to do. In some places, they're still, limiting churches in their ability to have people meet for worship, and that's upset a lot of people. So what about the emergency powers? How much power do they have? Because there's an emergency, can they just say whatever they want to say and that becomes law? It has to. See, there's some question about that. Like I said, we'll talk about that some more in another video. But you could write and express your thoughts on that some of these people have gotten carried away with their emergency powers. What about the Second Amendment, protecting the Second Amendment? Even if you don't like guns, even if you don't have a gun, The Second Amendment exists, and it says that people have the right to keep and bear arms. Now, even if that doesn't really matter to you because you don't have a gun and you don't want one or whatever, this is still an amendment in the Bill of Rights, and it should be a concern if people are infringing upon the rights of American citizens. Even if it's a right that you don't feel strongly about, you should feel strongly about people having their rights and not having someone infringe upon it. You could write your elected officials about that. What about the social media censorship stuff that's going on right now? That makes everybody a little uneasy, doesn't it? Freedom of speech is at risk here. Do I have the right to say what I think about this or that? Well, it seems like the very First Amendment says I should be able to do that. But if big media companies are stopping people from doing that, that doesn't seem quite right, does it? So, I mean, there's just all sorts of things that you can write your elected officials about, voice your opinion, tell them they need to get busy and do something about those sorts of things. What about how we respond generally to what's going on in our political world? I guess what I'm getting at here is the idea of fighting a defensive war. Now, let me say this right up front. I am not in any way referencing any kind of physical violence. I'm not talking about literally going to war. Okay, you need to know that. YouTube needs to know that. Okay, I'm not talking about going out and actually fighting in the streets and all that sort of thing. I'm using the terms metaphorically. Okay, our values, our ideas, our beliefs are worth fighting for. Metaphorically, how do we fight for them? Well, we use peaceful demonstrations, we use legal channels, we file lawsuits, we encourage our lawmakers to create laws which will protect certain behaviors or forbid certain behaviors, okay? And it seems to me that as conservatives, we are constantly on the defensive. The other side puts out all kinds of bills, they take all kinds of action, and we seem to be sitting there waiting for them to do that, and then we respond to that. I'm not sure that's a good way to make an awful lot of headway or progress. One of the things we need to do is go on the offensive and start putting out bills that we think will take the country in the direction it needs to go. Let me give you an example. Here in Texas, where I live, the very first day where bills could be submitted for the 2021 term, the anti-gun folks here in Texas submitted 21 bills for gun control. 21 bills on the very first day, okay? What did the conservatives do? Nothing. They didn't submit any bills, okay? That's fighting a defensive war. You wait for the other people to do something and then you react to it. That's not the best way to accomplish your purpose. So one of the things you need to write your elected officials about is going on the offense and putting out bills that will take the country in the direction that we want to go. Another thing you can do to make a difference over the next 3.5 years is to try to help people understand the value of a conservative or Republican approach. You know, most people are either Republicans or Democrats because that's what they were raised to be. That's what their family has always been. Their grandfather or their great-grandfather was a Republican, so they're a Republican or whatever. And one of the things that we need to understand is that this is a responsibility, a civic responsibility we have to vote and to be involved in politics. And we need to think about what's involved there. We need to think about the platform of the people we're associated with and what it is they're trying to accomplish. And I think the Republican platform has an awful lot of really, really good things going for it, and that if more people understood what Republicans were really about, that many of them might consider voting Republican. Now, I want to take a moment to tell you about a book I have along these lines. Here's a little book. It's called A Bunch of Really Good Reasons to Be a Republican. Now, this is available through Amazon. You can get it online. And it's a little history book that basically tells you about the two different parties and what they believe and you know, which ones would you like to be associated with as we move forward. You know, something like that can help you get a handle on things so that you could talk to people about it. One of the things we need to do is to convert, if you will, some Democrats and help them see the value of a Republican approach. Okay, one last thing. On the 6th, some really ugly things happened. Some really ugly things that none of us are proud of happened. And we're sorry they happened. We regret that they happened. And the people who did those things on the Capitol and to the Capitol, in the Capitol, like a number of people have said, they should be arrested and they should be convicted. Okay? It was an ugly thing. And we have to acknowledge that. But that was done by a small percentage of the people who were there that day to support President Trump. They didn't all go do that. It was just a small percentage of them went and did that, and they made everybody look bad. But here's the thing you have to remember. Conservative ideas and values are, again, metaphorically, worth fighting for. And if it turns out that because of what happened, President Trump is no longer able to effectively lead the Republican Party. Now, I don't know if he will be or not, if he can or not. I don't know, and I'm not commenting on that. I'm just saying, if it turns out that somebody else has to step up and provide leadership for the party, that's okay. It's not the end of anything, okay? The ideas and values are what are most important. And we need to support those, and we need to fight for those in the sense of struggling for them and trying to get them enacted and trying to build our society on those ideas. So even if President Trump can't recover from this and be the leader of the party, that's okay. Somebody else will come along and provide the leadership that we need. But it's not that person that's important. It's the ideas and values behind what we believe, or that serve as the basis for what we believe, that are the most important. If you like what you've heard here today, and if you think you might like to see some more of these, I would really appreciate it if down below you'd hit the little thumbs up. That will tell YouTube that people like this. And if you subscribe and hit the notification bell, then you'll be notified about other videos that are uploaded, and you can watch those. It doesn't cost you anything. Just hit the two little buttons, and it will help us out in what we're trying to do here with this channel. So thank you for tuning in. I hope you'll tune in again. Thank you and goodbye.